James Kaufman, World News Report today. Ladies and gentlemen, it's October 16th and we're still rocking and rolling. We've had two major earthquakes in the last few hours. Start with, we've had a magnitude 6.5 earthquake that popped off at a depth of 35 kilometers. It does have an associated tsunami warning with it. Popped off in the Indonesia, Papua New Guinea area. There's a very large aftershock of a 5.1 there at a default depth of 10 kilometers. And all the way down here in the Drake Passage, we're having a small swarm, including this magnitude 6.3 earthquake, also with a tsunami warning, where we don't have any tsunami buoys, so we'll have little information as to what's going on there. I've been told that these are some of the very roughest waters in the world. Just to let you guys know, the third biggest earthquake on the entire globe also occurred as one of these swarm earthquakes in the Drake Passage. We've got, a plate tectonic boundary ending there. Just as we do, we have a mess of plate tectonic boundaries over here in the Indonesia, Papua New Guinea area. Now, we have active volcanoes in the Indonesia, Papua New Guinea area where we're seeing this 6.5 and other quakes, including the 5.1 right there. But we don't really have any earthquake activity. This is more of a plate tectonic situation in the Drake Passage. Jumping over to volcanoes and earthquakes.com, we see the 6.5 and the 5.1 here. We also had a 5.1 down, near New Zealand, and that's going to be really a part of the mechanism I call Zealandia that's rising. And there are a couple of active volcanoes in this area. I believe we're going to have White Island Volcano, and just south of that we have Whale Island Volcano that's just started to awaken. For those of y'all who aren't familiar with New Zealand, it's our 8th continent, and this is the general shape of it. It seems to be rising out of the ocean. Now, over to the Drake Passage here, we have our 6.3, we have our 5.2 aftershock. I'm going to turn them all on so we can see what's really going on in these areas. And you can see that these areas are full of earthquake activity. Absolutely full. Look at Indonesia and the Philippines. This is one of the most active earthquake maps I remember seeing in some time. We can take a look at the Russian peninsula here with 7 volcanoes going off. Extremely active. We have volcanoes awakening up and down the Aleutian Islands here. You can see all the volcanoes we have, where we have our North American, Pacific, Euro-Asian, Indonesian plate hitting there near Tokyo. We talked about this ring around the Philippines, Indonesia. This is the big boy, the 6.5, followed by the 5.1 aftershock. And there are so many aftershocks, it's solid red. You can see all the active volcanoes in Papua New Guinea and around the Philippines here. There's really no active volcano right in this area, but we have a huge plate tectonic problem where we see major plate boundaries going every which way but loose as Zealandia tries to decide exactly what it's going to look like as it rises out of the ocean. This is going along, with what we knew would happen. We're also seeing the Aegean Sea up there off the coast of Greece just swarm after we have never seen any earthquakes there since we've been doing this. So this is getting biblical, may I say. I also wanted to show y'all New Zealand is at 5-1. We talked about New Zealand, and look at the swarms in New Zealand. And if we back off, look at the, Central American West Coast. So they're all volcanoes active all the way from Mexico City down south. All of Venezuela, Colombia have active volcanoes, and magma's movement is substantial and everywhere. We also have a lot going on, finally, in the Peruvian-Chilean wedge here, with, it looks like, at least 6, 7, 8 volcanoes in full or minor eruption. And then we get down to our, Drake Passage, that 6.3, that 4.9, and that 5.2. So we only have 3 that have been recorded down there. Closest volcano is way over here, Michael Volcano. And again, this is going to be a plate tectonic problem. You'll probably see it better over here. This plate tectonic goes right into this other one that's not quite formed here. And we see pieces of an plate that wants to form right through this area here. And there's a lot of pressure right there. So let's get some detailed information on the 2 big quakes, the 6.5 and the 6.3. All right, we have a very strong magnitude 6.5 earthquake, Papua New Guinea, Indonesia area. This happened about 12 hours ago. We've had the aftershock between then and now. And let's get some more information about this. All right. Taking a look at earthquake details for the very strong 6.5 magnitude earthquake, depth of 16 kilometers. The main source is going to be the Indonesian government as a reporting source down here. 5.3 atomic bombs worth of energy were released, so it was a sizable earthquake. And they say a depth was about 16 kilometers. All right, taking a look at the shape map for the magnitude 6.5 earthquake in West Papua New Guinea here. Well, it looks like it hit pretty hard, fairly populated in that area. So it came in rather hard. A lot of people did report feeling this. Let's see if we can see how many reports we had. All right, we only had a handful of reports there. Let's compare earthquake data from different reporting agencies for the 6.5. Starting out with the Indonesian government coming in at 6.5, 16 kilometers. The Incorporated Research Institute for Seismology at 6.5, also at 35 kilometers. Germany at 6.5, 24 kilometers. USGS at 6.5, 35 kilometers. Let's see, we have the French. The French coming in at a 6.27, a default depth of 10 kilometers. We have the Australians coming in at a 6.5 as well, 7.8 kilometers in depth. We have the Italians coming in at 6.5, 32 kilometers of depth. The Europeans finishing off at a 6.5, 26 kilometers of depth. This is the 6.5, very strong earthquake in the Papua New Guinea, Indonesia area that had an aftershock of I believe it was a 5.1 or 5.2. All right, now jumping over, staying with volcanodiscovery.com, but jumping over to the 6.3 magnitude quake. That's going to have happened in the Drake Passage. So the South Atlantic Ocean Drake Passage. I'm going to actually have to pull that down so you guys can see exactly where it occurred. I think you'll have a really good idea. But way down here, getting very close to the Antarctic. All right, taking a look at the earthquake details for the 6.3, very strong quake, Drake Passage, USGS, main source of data, default depth 10 kilometers. The water is very shallow, although in that area It looks like 2.7 atomic bombs worth of energy were released. So again, it was a sizable earthquake, and it did have a large aftershock, really two large aftershocks there. The entire globe is lit up, as y'all saw yourselves. Now, we have some islands that are populated through here, but there's one monitoring station right here, earthquake monitoring station, and we only got one report of anyone that felt this very large 6.3 earthquake, and one report of anyone that felt the two aftershocks. That man must be, well, miserable. That's right between our tip of Argentina and Chile here, which meet right there, and the Antarctic Circle that actually stretches out almost to South America there. Again, only one report of someone that felt the entire quake. Then we do have a populated island here, although not densely. All right, comparing earthquake data from different reporting agencies, starting out with the USGS, a 6.3, default depth 10 kilometers. Germany, a 6.3, 20 kilometers of depth. Raspberry Shake, a 6.0, default depth. We've got the Europeans coming in at 6.3, 20 kilometers of depth. The Australians, who I trust the most, coming in at 6.3, default depth 10 kilometers. The French, I don't even have to look, coming in at 5.6, default depth 10 kilometers. The Incorporated Research Institute for Seismology coming in at a 6.3 and a default depth again there. We have the, Italians coming in at 6.1, 81 kilometers of depth. Wonder why they have it so deep compared to all the other sources. And then we have Chile coming in here with a 6.3 and a depth of 15 kilometers, which I think is right about the depth that this occurred at. Not very, very deep water south of the tip of South America, called the Drake Passage. All right, we do have good news to go along with all the bad. Although the entire globe is lit up right now, we did have those coronal winds, or solar winds from the coronal hole, strike Earth for about 48 hours. And now we've had several flares spit out protons and X-rays. These plates are charged and ready to rumble. We don't have any buoys in event mode, although we really just don't have any buoys anywhere down here near the Drake Passage. So it's questionable as to if there is anything going on this far south. Now, I know a lot of people don't sail the Drake Passage because it is so dangerous, and I guess that is what they're counting on, not having any measuring equipment whatsoever down there. Now, y'all would be very surprised if I showed y'all how many of these are actual seismic buoys. Only a handful of them, although they can all be used as that. Just a handful of these are seismic buoys. All right, we can put these in largest magnitude first. We got that 6.5 right there, Papua New Guinea. And here's the aftershock right here, Papua New Guinea, a 5.1 aftershock. We have that 6.3, the Drake Passage. Here's that aftershock here, that 5.2. And then here's a 5.0 aftershock right there in Papua New Guinea as well. So that sums it up as far as big quakes around the globe. We do have that other 5.1 or 5.0 down in New Zealand, but that's pretty much it. Although the entire globe is showing up with, small earthquakes. Take one last look at that. All right, I want everybody to know everything's rocking and rolling, and volcanoes are awakening. We'll probably do a show tonight based on what we're seeing here about all the volcanoes awakening, about all of the earthquakes around the globe. Look up at Iceland now. This is getting crazy. So, just to cover it real quick, guys. Alaska swarming, all of Central America swarming, i.e. volcanoes are erupting, magma movement, all of Venezuela and Colombia, all the way down through the Peruvian Chile wedge here. Volcanoes awakening, more so than I've ever seen. We've got the Drake Passage swarming, and not for the first time this month, for the third time. We've got everything going crazy off the coast of Greece over here, an area I knew would play into this biblically. We've got a really strange quake, a 3.4 here in India. This is just crazy surrounding Indonesia, the Philippines, starting off really in mainland China, and I guess India is always saved by the Himalayan mountains, except for this little swarm they've got going on here. We talked about Japan just getting nailed. They have awakening volcanoes, swarms of earthquakes and magma movement. And they keep building those nuclear power plants. The entire peninsula of Russia. We have 7 volcanoes in eruption and a ton of magma movement. We've got magma movement all over New Zealand, all over Papua New Guinea, and this is all part of Zealandia Rising, the continent. We've even got, is that Kilauea going back off? And we have a 3.4 there. It's just crazy, folks. Absolutely insane. Again, we probably will cover this as our live tonight, so hopefully you'll join us then. Stay safe out there. We're rocking and rolling. And this is set up to get worse. Worse, not better. Much worse. We have 3 CMEs inbound, at least 4 or 5 really. And we have coronal winds inbound from that coronal hole that's finally earth-facing. God bless. Please share and subscribe. Always remember, anything's possible in Bizarro World.